2 months ago, I bought what I found to be the cheapest acceptable consumer-grade espresso machine. At $500 US, it was only cheap by espresso machine standards, and I was hoping that the cost would be offset by something. Like maybe the experience of learning how to pull a shot would lead to some instructional breakthrough in the world of beginner espresso, or at least when we had guests stay over, their experience would be meaningfully improved with a homemade cortado every morning. But through all of the learning and all of the lattes, there has been only one noticeable change. Everyone wants me to make them a Carajillo Shakerato. This is Licor 43, translated literally, liqueur 43. It's a warm, sweet Spanish liqueur that tastes mostly like vanilla with far fainter notes of cinnamon, citrus, and spice. When you add a shot of Licor 43 to a shot of espresso, you get a Carajillo, which is a very popular after-dinner cocktail in Mexico, served either hot or over ice. But that's just part one of today's lesson. This is a Cafe Shakerato. It's a silly name for a shot of espresso sweetened with simple syrup and then shaken with ice. By that description, fans of sweetened diluted drinks like big 12-ounce hazelnut lattes might expect this to be disgusting. It's just strong, bitter espresso served cold with a splash of syrup, right? But the act of shaking everything together is the definitive characteristic. The drink develops this tight, cascading foam, not unlike nitro cold brew, albeit a foam that's significantly shorter lived. It's a non-alcoholic drink, but I've seen alcoholic versions that use a super sweet liqueur in place of that simple syrup. If you're a fan of the wacky yet delicious coffee and citrus combo, you could even shake espresso with a shot of lemony sweet limoncello for a boozy and profoundly Italian Shakerato. Now that you understand both parts of the equation I'm about to lay down, I bet you can already see where I'm going with this. Brew a shot of espresso, about 2 ounces of liquid depending on your method of extraction, straight into a metal cup. For flavor's sake, I also like to sprinkle like 3 grains of kosher salt into the hot coffee to dissolve. More precise coffee nerds will instead use an exact measurement of pre-dissolved saline solution, but this is a drink I'm usually making while full from a big celebratory dinner, so I'm not usually in coffee nerd mode at this point. Add a shot of Licor 43 to the cup. A standard shot is usually 1.5 ounces, but you can dial it up or down depending on how sweet you take your cocktails. Add a big handful of ice cubes to the cup. You want a lot of ice because it's going to dissolve in the hot coffee, and if all of the ice dissolves, there won't be any solid chunks in the glass to agitate and aerate the liquid to make foam. I don't have a dedicated cocktail shaker, so I just use these 2 differently sized metal cups. You've got to shake everything together vigorously until the cups get too cold for comfort. You don't have to strain it before serving if you don't mind ice chips in the drink, but I do like to strain it into the smallest coupe glass I've got. Fun fact, Brie and I drank champagne out of these glasses at our wedding, and they were passed down from my parents' wedding, so she really hates when I use them for everyday drinking. If you don't have any glasses this small, you could just put one big mass of ice in a larger glass so that it takes up most of the room without making its way into your mouth. I just really like the glass to look full when I serve it because I like seeing the foam come all the way to the lip. I wouldn't blame you for being less particular about the presentation, but it could be that my fussy presentation is what generates such high demand. But what if you don't actually have an espresso machine? Standard Carajillo procedure would just be to use the strongest coffee that you have available, whether that's cold brew concentrate or mocha pot coffee or something else entirely. I work really hard to keep my ads at the end of my videos, so all I'll say about a certain option is that there's a paid advertisement for it coming up in about 90 seconds. Any means by which you can generate 2 ounces of very strong coffee is probably going to taste good in this drink, and I encourage you to try actually making it this weekend. Espresso Martinis are back in a big way right now, which makes sense for a maturing generation raised on Four Loko and vodka Red Bulls, but this Carajillo Shakerato will always be my preference. Where an Espresso Martini has its famous wake me up and fuck me up tagline, this drink presents a much lower ABV due to its omission of vodka and much higher level of complexity due to its sweetness coming from a rich liqueur instead of plain sugar water. To me, it presents just as much, if not more, flavor and caffeine than an espresso martini, but in a velvety, more drinkable format. Plus, you don't have to drink it out of a martini glass, the top-heavy, half-filled bastard cup that I hate more than any dishware ever invented. Win-win. Chin-chin. Cometeer has paid to be mentioned at the end of this video. Cometeer is a brand of frozen coffee capsules that you melt in a glass to make a delicious cup of coffee that tastes like it required way more effort than it really did. Last month I traveled to Mexico, and since I knew there wouldn't be any way to make good coffee in the hotel, I brought a box of Cometeer and made excellent coffee drinks all weekend long. Their website has instructions on how to make a basic iced latte. Just melt a Cometeer capsule in a glass of milk. But maybe after seeing this video, the brand will add this Carajillo Shakerato recipe onto their website. I know at least one person is watching this thinking, man, this guy made a whole video just to shoehorn a Cometeer ad in at the end. But real ones know that I made this whole video to write off a new espresso machine on my taxes next year. Cometeer really does taste good and really does present a low effort way to make espresso drinks at home without actually making espresso at home. For a limited time, you can get $40 off across your first 2 orders when you use my code at cometeer.com. If you've been waiting to try Cometeer, now is the time.